Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So in this video I will be showing you everything that I have picked up for the month of January 2022. So this includes DVDs, Blu-rays and even a few 4Ks as well. So January is normally a bit of a light month for me because I get paid early in December, but then I always have an agonizingly long wait until payday for January. So I always have to be a bit more careful with money in January. But luckily I did get some Christmas money and some vouchers, so I was able to pick up a fair bit this month. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. So the first thing I'm going to show you is that I actually picked up a few TV shows this month. I don't really tend to buy TV shows on physical media anymore because most of the TV shows I love I already own on DVD or Blu-ray, and I don't really tend to watch that many new shows. It's just not really something I'm into that much anymore. But anyway, I will show you what TV shows I have picked up. So the first one I've got here is Season 6 of Dragon Ball Z. I used to watch this show as a kid and I absolutely loved it, and I have been revisiting the series. You may wonder why I haven't shown the previous seasons in my last few pickups videos, but it's just been such a long time. Well, it's taken me such a long time to get through the show. But yeah, I did pick up Season 6, and for anyone who knows Dragon Ball Z, this is the saga, well, the end of the Cell saga, the Cell games. Probably for me, one of the best storylines in the show. And yeah, it's been absolutely great revisiting it. I do love Dragon Ball Z. And then with that, I just got today Season 7 of Dragon Ball Z. So this is kind of where I stopped watching as a kid. I don't really remember anything after the Cell games. So this will probably be a brand new watch for me, but then there may be stuff I remember from it, but all I can really remember is up to the Cell saga. But yeah, I'm looking forward to checking this one out as well. So another TV show I picked up is The Pacific. So this is kind of a World War II drama, similar to Band of Brothers, which is an absolutely brilliant mini-series. But this is kind of seen as kind of like well, not a sequel, but most people refer to it as a sequel to Band of Brothers. I remember watching this when it came out, but I didn't really get into it. I never finished it. I think I got about 5 episodes in and kind of gave up. But I found this in a shop for, I think it was only £5. So I just decided to give it another go. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it this time round. I don't think it's quite as good as Band of Brothers, but if you like sort of, your realistic World War II movies or TV shows, documentaries, then it's definitely worth a watch. It's very visceral, very raw, very powerful in places as well. And there's quite a few actors in it who at the time weren't very well known, but they are quite famous now. But yeah, that's The Pacific. Next TV show I've got here is Season 1 of Star Trek Picard. I only very recently got into like the entire Star Trek franchise, but now I'm a massive fan of it. I'll watch anything Star Trek related. And I think this was the last sort of Star Trek related TV that I watched. I think it came out last year or the year before, and yeah, I enjoyed it. The reason I picked this up was because I want to give it a rewatch before Season 2 comes out, because I think it comes out March, I think. And yeah, I just picked it up so I could revisit it, but that is Star Trek Picard. The last TV show I've got to show you now, I picked this one up. I was kind of influenced by Joe from Geeky Hijinks. He had done a video on why he loves this series so much. And watching that video, it made me want to go back and revisit this series, because I remember watching it when it came out and I absolutely loved it. But it was because of Joe's video that I decided to pick it up, and I actually found it pretty cheap in HMV. But anyway, that is the Hannibal TV series, the complete series, 1 to 3. But yeah, Joe is a fantastic YouTuber. He's got a great channel, and I just got to say thanks to Joe for helping me in revisiting this series. I will leave a link to his video in the description below if you want to check that out, because he's a great YouTuber. But yeah, anyway, Hannibal is, it's obviously based off the Hannibal series of books, the movies with Anthony Hopkins. This is kind of a different take on it. It's kind of set before the books, but if you like the Hannibal movies or the books, I would definitely recommend this. Mads Mikkelsen is absolutely fantastic as Hannibal Lecter. I know Anthony Hopkins is, you know, his performance as Lecter is iconic, it's legendary, and, you know, I'm not going to argue with that, but Mads Mikkelsen is equally as good. His performance as him is very different, so you can't even really compare the two, but he is fantastic in this show, and for me, it's probably one of the best shows from the 2010s. It was just such a great show from start to finish, and it was sadly cut down in its prime with only 3 seasons. But yeah, it's a fantastic series if you want to check it out. Right next that I've got to show you, I picked up a few DVDs, not actually that many this month surprisingly. But anyway, the first one is K19 The Widowmaker. So I picked this up mainly because I'm quite a big fan of Kathryn Bigelow, the director. She's done some fantastic films, some very underrated ones like Strange Days, Zero Dark 30, The Hurt Locker, Near Dark. You know, she's not made that many films, but most of the ones I've watched have been really great. I always heard this film was a bit of a mixed bag. I didn't really mind it. I thought it was pretty enjoyable. Powerhouse performances from Harrison Ford and Liam Neeson. Their screen presence is just terrific. And yeah, well, I'll admit it's not like a 4 or 5-star movie. It's still overall really enjoyable. And I'd recommend it. I think it's a pretty good film. Right, next 2 DVDs I picked up because we do have another film in this series coming out imminently, and that is Jackass the Movie and Jackass number 2. Now, I had always seen, you know, bits from these movies over the years, but I'd never actually seen them in full. So I decided to revisit them just in preparation for this new film, because I would like to see it in the cinema. I think if I'm watching it in a packed cinema, it might be quite a good atmosphere. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to watching that. But yeah, I had to revisit these 2 just to see what I was missing out on. And then along with that, I also picked up the 3rd film on Blu-ray. This one was probably my favourite of the 3. I think it had like sort of the best production values, the best sort of stunts and skits in it, and overall it was really good. But I think all 3 films, they've all got their merits, they're all a lot of fun. But yeah, that is Jackass 3. Next Blu-ray that I picked up was The Adventures of Tintin. Yeah, this is a Steven Spielberg film, and I've got to admit, like, I wasn't really all that fussed about watching it. The only reason I really picked this up is because there's just a few films from Spielberg's filmography that I've not actually watched. So I just kind of got it to complete that. But I actually really liked this film. I would say this is probably Spielberg's funnest movie since the 80s. It's got a very Indiana Jones kind of vibe. Everything about it, from the time it's set in, the locations, the music by John Williams, some of the action scenes in it. It's like a spiritual sequel to Indiana Jones, but it's a hell of a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this film, and I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much, but yeah, that is The Adventures of Tintin. Next Blu-ray that I picked up was Chariots of Fire. Now, I picked this film up because I saw it in CEX for a fairly decent price. I think it was about £3. And I just decided to pick it up because Chariots of Fire is one of those films that it's so iconic, it's so famous, obviously for the running scenes, the music. There's been so many sort of parodies of it. But it's just one of those iconic films that I've just never seen. And I just picked it up just to see what it was all about, basically. And yeah, it's not too bad. Pretty standard drama. I know it had some sort of controversy with the Oscars. I think a lot of people wanted Raiders of the Lost Ark to win Best Picture at the Oscars, but this won instead. And it seems to be one of those films that a lot of people don't really look back too fondly on. But overall, I thought it was pretty good. Is it a film I'm going to watch again and again and again? Probably not, but you know, I can't really knock it. It's a pretty good drama, and that music is, of course, fantastic and one of the best parts about it. I picked this next Blu-ray up from an independent shop where I am in Liverpool. They're actually closed now, but they're having a big closing down sale. So I got this film very cheap, and it is Cloud Atlas with Tom Hanks and Halle Berry. I remember seeing the trailer for this film in the cinema, and I couldn't get my head around it. I just didn't know what this film was trying to be, and I think for that reason I just kind of dismissed it and I never bothered watching it. But it always kind of fascinated me, this movie, because, you know, I didn't really know what it was about, and I wanted to know. And I've got to admit, I actually really, really liked it. Would I say that I got it completely? Probably not. I mean, I could follow the movie, but by the end of it, I didn't really know what sort of point it was trying to make. But I still really enjoyed it. Everything about it is great, like from a production point of view, the music, the performances, the cinematography, some of the action in it. It's just, you know, it's really thrilling. And even though it's almost 3 hours long, because there's so many different stories going on all at the same time, loads of different subplots, it's very, very engrossing, and very rare that a 3-hour movie feels like a 90-minute movie. It just flew by so quickly. But yeah, it's not a masterpiece, but overall I really did enjoy Cloud Atlas. Next Blu-ray that I picked up, I found this one for 50p in CEX, and it is I Love You, Philip Morris. You can see a nice little CEX sticker mark there from those god-awful stickers they use. But yeah, this is a film starring Jim Carrey and Ewan McGregor as lovers, essentially. But it's a really fun sort of comedy drama. I had a great time with it. I remember it coming out and wanting to see it, and for whatever reason, I just never got around to. But when I saw it for 50p, I thought, yeah, I've got to get that. And yeah, I think it's an underrated film. Kind of like one of a Jim Carrey film that kind of goes a bit under the radar, let's say. But yeah, I can't really knock this film. Again, it's not like a masterpiece, but overall, really enjoyable. Very funny in places and very sad in places as well. Really good film. I picked this next one up in CEX because it was very, very cheap. And it's one I haven't seen since seeing it at the cinema, and that is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, I picked this up, as I said, just because it was very cheap and I wanted to rewatch it. I've got to admit, it's probably one of my least favourite Tarantino films. I know there's a lot of people who really, really love this film and think it's, you know, potentially his masterpiece. And, you know, that's fine for me. If people think that, then, you know, that's great. I applaud them for that. But yeah, for me, I find it a bit long, a bit slow. But, you know, the look of this film, the aesthetic, it's like a time capsule, really. It's like you're living in the 60s watching this film, and I really do appreciate it for that, and the performances are really good. I think my favourite part of the film is the ending, sort of the last 15-20 minutes. I think that's when the film really feels like a Tarantino movie, but the rest of it kind of doesn't for me, so that's kind of why I don't really rate it as highly as Tarantino's other films. But, you know, I still enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, that's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I picked this next film up because it was a film I had not seen in the longest time. It came out when I was like 10 or 11, and I remember loving it at the time, but I know its reputation over the years is not too great. But it is Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes remake. Yeah, I know it's not the best film. I just kind of wanted to give it a rewatch to see if it's still, well, if it was like I remembered it. And yeah, I will admit it's not really a great film. Yeah, I mean, there are things about it I don't mind. I can get on board with some parts of it. The production values are pretty good, but I don't know, it just feels a bit misguided, a bit weird in places, and then it kind of gets to a point where it almost kind of becomes a bit boring. But yeah, I just picked it up mainly for that rewatch because I hadn't seen it in the longest time. But yeah, that's Planet of the Apes. I've been after this film for quite a while, and that's Terra Train from the Slasher Classics collection from 88 Films. Yeah, I don't know, like, I didn't mind this film, but I think I'm at a point now where I think I'm kind of over slasher movies. I love all the ones that I watched as a kid, I think mainly because I've got the nostalgia for them. But whenever I watch like a slasher film that I've not seen before, I don't really tend to enjoy them as much. I'll still go back to all the ones I loved from years ago, but all of these ones I haven't seen, I'm not really that into. I mean, I thought this one was okay. I thought the killer was quite interesting. got Jamie Lee Curtis, of course. She puts in a pretty good performance, to be fair. I like the setting on the train, but yeah, it's not one of the greatest slasher films I've ever seen, but you know, overall it was okay. Next Blu-ray that I picked up was Tron. Yeah, this is another film that I picked up from CEX for fairly cheap. I picked this up mainly because I'd never seen it before. It was always one of those films that just kind of eluded me as a kid. I used to love all sorts of movies from the 80s. They were sort of my go-to movies. But yeah, this is one that I just never got around to seeing as a kid. And overall, I didn't mind it. I think maybe it's one of those films that you kind of need the nostalgia for. I think that's probably the case for most people when they enjoy this movie. But you know, I didn't mind it. It's probably not one I will watch that often, but you know, it was okay. Next Blu-ray that I've got here is War for the Planet of the Apes. So this is from the most recent trilogy of Planet of the Apes movies, and I picked this one up because I actually never got around to watching this. I really love the first two. I remember going to see Rise of the Planet of the Apes in the cinema, and I absolutely loved it. I think it's a very underrated film, and probably my favourite of the three. And then Dawn, I remember watching that. First time I watched it, I didn't really click with it, but after a few rewatches, I did finally enjoy it quite a lot. And I got this one because I just never got around to watching it at the time, and again, it was in CEX for a really good price. And overall, I think this is probably my least favourite of the three. I was kind of a bit disappointed essentially. I was expecting it to be sort of this grand, explosive finale, but I was actually quite surprised at how subdued and dark this film was, kind of being more of a character piece. I thought it was a little bit overlong in places, but I mean, I still enjoyed it, and it has a really, really powerful ending, a really good ending, and overall it is it's a strong ending to the trilogy of films. I know they've been talking about doing a fourth one, but I don't really think they need to. I think it's a pretty good way to end the trilogy. But yeah, that is War for the Planet of the Apes. Right, next I've just got a few 4Ks to show you. These were ones that most of these were on offer, because I don't really tend to buy 4Ks full price. But anyway, the first one is Basic Instinct on 4K. Yeah, this is a film that I've always enjoyed it, but I've not really seen it that many times. And yeah, I'd actually just never owned it at all on physical media, and I saw it in HMV for, I think it was £15, so it's a little bit cheaper than what you'd normally pay for a 4K. And yeah, I do like the film. I don't think it's Paul Verhoeven's best by any means, but it's a solid thriller, and the 4K transfer is fantastic on it, so you can't really argue with that. But yeah, that's Basic Instinct. Next 4K that I picked up, this was $9.99, I think, with any purchase, and it is the Big Lebowski, Coen Brothers classic. Yeah, I had this film on DVD. I never actually upgraded to Blu-ray, and then when I saw it for $9.99, I thought I would just go straight ahead and go with the 4K. And yeah, I love this movie. It's not my favourite Coen Brothers film, but it is definitely, for me, one of their best. Very, very funny, very offbeat and weird, as you can expect from the Coens. And the 4K transfer is surprisingly a very good one. It's not one I would have expected a 4K release for, to be honest, but yeah, it's a really, really good transfer. Next 4K I picked up was another one for $9.99, and it is Bill and Ted Face the Music. Yeah, this is a film I went to see at the cinema. I'm a big fan of the Bill and Ted franchise, so yeah, I had to pick this up. It's probably my least favourite film of the three, but it's by no means a bad film. It's still really, really enjoyable, really funny, and got a very epic ending. I do love the end. If you like Bill and Ted, if you grew up with them, then this is a really nice way to end the series. I know they're probably thinking of doing a fourth one at some point, but if it was to stop at this one, then it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. It's a pretty solid ending to the trilogy of films. But yeah, that's Bill and Ted Face the Music. Next 4K that I picked up is Leon, directed by Luc Besson. Yeah, this is a film that I remember seeing maybe about 10 or 11 years ago when I was at university. And I remember being kind of disappointed in it, especially considering how many people loved this film. I was a little bit disappointed when I watched it, but I'd always wanted to watch it again, and it just seemed like a good film to watch on 4K. So when I became aware that there was a 4K, I knew that I would get it at some point. And yeah, rewatching it now, I totally get why people love this film. It's a fantastic movie. Really stylistic, but it's got a really good story as well. Really good performances from the cast. Jean Reno, of course, fantastic actor. Got a very young Natalie Portman, and of course Gary Oldman as the villain in the film, and he's a fantastic villain, we all know that. And yeah, I had a much better time with Leon, and yeah, really fantastic film. And the last 4K I picked up was Total Recall, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger. I don't need to say much about this film. I kind of grew up on it. I watched it as a kid. I probably shouldn't have been watching it as a kid, but I just have so much nostalgia for this film, and it's probably one of Arnie's best for sure. And it's a fantastic transfer, and I'm really glad that I upgraded it to 4K. Right guys, last two pickups for you now, and these two are, well, I guess you consider them boutique Blu-rays. The first one I've got here is Light Sleeper. This is a Indicator release, and I actually saw this in CEX for, I think it was about £10, and I had wanted to watch this film because it's got Willem Dafoe in, and it's also a film directed by Paul Schrader, who is probably best known for sort of writing Taxi Driver, Last Temptation of Christ, Bringing Out the Dead for Martin Scorsese. He's had a good sort of working relationship with him, but he's also directed a lot of fantastic films over the years. Another really good one by him is a film called Blue Collar, which was also released by Indicator. But yeah, I decided to pick this up for those reasons. And yeah, it's a really interesting film. It's kind of got like a Taxi Driver vibe, but instead of the character being a taxi driver, he's a drug dealer, but he's trying to get out of it essentially and just kind of lead a normal life, but things sort of happen which kind of get in his way and keep him in the game. And yeah, overall it's a pretty good film. It's an underrated film, probably not that many people are aware of it, but yeah, I would recommend it if you like that sort of film. If you like sort of Martin Scorsese, Paul Schrader, yeah, it's a really interesting and enjoyable film. And the last pickup for January 2022 is Shock, directed by Mario Bava and released by Arrow Video. Yeah, I was so happy when Arrow finally announced this one. I had gotten into Mario Bava's films maybe 6 or 7 years ago when I discovered a lot of them through Arrow, and yeah, I was so happy to see this announced, and I had to pick it up day one. And yeah, I've got to admit, I really liked this film. This has probably become my second favourite Mario Bava film after Black Sabbath. And yeah, it's a very creepy movie. If you know Mario Bava and you know sort of his more ghost films like Black Sunday and Black Sabbath and Kill Baby Kill, you know that there's some very creepy moments in those films. And this film's no exception. It's got a fantastic performance from Daria Nicolodi as well, she's probably best known for being associated with Dario Argento. She starred in many of his films and also had a relationship with him for a number of years. But if you like your Italian cinema, your Italian horror, if you like Mario Bava especially, then you've got to check Shock out. Even if you just like horror in general, I would still recommend it. It's a really good, creepy Italian horror. Right, there you go guys, those are my pickups for the month of January 2022. I really hope you've enjoyed this video guys, and if you've got any thoughts or comments, opinions, anything like that, then please by all means leave them below in the comments section. I would love to hear from you guys and, you know, just have a good conversation about anything movie related. But yeah, until then, I will hopefully see you all again very soon. So yeah, take care guys, see you again.